$18,400. That number went up every month for 4 years, every single month. And the entire time, Brendan was getting poorer. Not because he spent it, not because he made bad decisions, because the number going up and the value going up are two completely different things, and the human brain cannot tell them apart without help. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why a rising savings balance can hide a falling financial position, what 4 years of that gap costs in real dollars, and the one structural move that closes it permanently. Here's what makes this uncomfortable. Brendan isn't careless. He's the guy who opens his banking app every Sunday morning with his coffee. He watches the number, it climbs, slowly, consistently, the way responsible saving is supposed to look. In 2020, Brendan put $18,400 into a traditional savings account. It felt like the right thing to do. It felt specifically like discipline. 4 years later, he'd earned $335 in interest and lost $3,569 in purchasing power. I know how that sounds. Let me earn it. Here is the rule the entire video runs on. The brain treats a number that stays the same as money that stays the same, which means any account that shows growth will feel like a win even when real value is collapsing behind the number. The bias has a name: money illusion. It's not a character flaw, it's not a knowledge gap, it's a structural feature of how the brain processes numerical information. Think of it this way. Imagine you have a ruler, but someone quietly stretched the ruler by 4% every year. Every measurement you take still looks right, the numbers still go up. But what you're measuring is silently smaller than it was. Money illusion is that stretched ruler, and inflation is the hand doing the stretching. The technical definition: money illusion is the tendency to think about monetary value in nominal terms rather than real, inflation-adjusted terms. A 1997 study by Shafir at Princeton University found that 48% of respondents preferred a 2% raise during 4% inflation over a 0% raise during 0% inflation, even though the 2% raise left them meaningfully worse off in purchasing power. The finding has been replicated in laboratory and field settings by Weber in 2000 and Fair and Tieran in 2001. Priya, an IT project manager in Austin earning $118,000 a year, did the same thing with $47,000 for 6 years. Different income bracket, same bias, same stretched ruler. Now back to Brendan and the Sunday morning that changed the math. It's March 2024. Brendan opens his banking app. The balance reads $18,735. His account earns 0.45% APY, the national average for traditional savings accounts at that time, according to the FDIC. He feels good about that number. It's higher than it was last month, higher than it was last year. The trajectory is correct. The behavior feels validated. Then a colleague mentioned something at work, offhand, almost nothing, about how the dollar lost roughly 19% of its purchasing power between 2020 and 2024. That number comes from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index data, cumulative 2020-2024. Brendan doesn't think much of it in the moment, but that night he does the math. His $18,400, sitting in that account, earning $335 in interest over 4 years, should have kept pace with $3,569 worth of inflation just to break even. It didn't come close. The account balance went up, the purchasing power went down. And Brendan had been checking that balance every single week, feeling confirmation that he was doing the right thing. The bias didn't feel like a mistake, it felt like discipline. You felt this, you just didn't have a name for it. The question Brendan couldn't shake: how much did the comfort of watching that number actually cost him? Here's what the psychology cost Brendan, not in stress, but in dollars. Step 1, baseline monthly number, the gap between Brendan's savings account yield, 0.45% APY, and inflation averaging approximately 4.85% annually from 2020 to 2024, produced a real monthly loss in purchasing power of approximately $107. That is the monthly cost of money illusion, the dollar difference between what his money kept and what it needed to keep pace. Step 2, 1-year reality annualized. That's $1,284 in real purchasing power eroded every year. If that same $107 per month had been invested at 7% annually, it would have generated an additional $1,335 in the first year alone, meaning the combined annual cost of the gap is approximately $2,619. Step 3. 10-year compounding loss, $107 per month invested at 7%, compounded over 10 years, becomes $17,658. Brendan's account produced $335 in interest over 4 years. The compounding delta, the distance between what happened and what could have happened, is $17,323 over a decade. Step 4. 30-year retirement cost over 30 years, $107 per month at 7% compounded annually, becomes $121,997. That is the retirement horizon cost of keeping money in a traditional savings account during an inflationary period, not because of recklessness, but because the number on the screen looked fine. Step 5. The life reframe, $121,997, is approximately 8 years of retirement income at a modest $15,000 annual withdrawal rate. It is 8 years of not working, built entirely on the $107 monthly gap between where Brendan's money sat and where it could have gone. That's not a feeling, that's a number. The intervention is simpler than the math. But first, something the math can't tell you. I want to be honest about this. This analysis runs cleanest when inflation is elevated and savings rates are near their historical floor. If you're watching this in a period where high-yield savings accounts are returning 4.5% or 5%, the purchasing power gap narrows significantly and the math changes. The psychological pattern is real and documented regardless of the rate environment. The money illusion bias activates whenever your account shows a rising number. What varies is the dollar cost of that activation in any given year. This video explains a documented cognitive pattern. It does not know your income, your emergency fund requirements, your debt load, or your tax situation. A rising number on a screen is not the same as a growing financial position, but the right account for your position is a conversation this video cannot finish for you. What it can do is show you the structural moves that close the gap. 3 interventions, ranked by friction. Start with the first one today. Intervention 1. Open a high-yield savings account and move your liquid savings there this week. As of mid-2024, FDIC-insured high-yield accounts through institutions like Marcus by Goldman Sachs, Ally Bank, and SoFi were offering between 4.3% and 5.1% APY, compared to the 0.45% national average. That single move closes the majority of the inflation gap without changing your risk profile, your liquidity, or your behavior. Money illusion works by hiding the gap. This move makes the gap impossible to hide because the yield number is now visible and comparable. Intervention 2. Set a calendar reminder, once per quarter, 10 minutes, to look up the current CPI figure from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and subtract your savings APY from it. The BLS publishes updated CPI data monthly at bls.gov. If the result is positive, your savings are losing real value. If it's negative, you're ahead of inflation. This is the only calculation that tells you whether your balance going up means your purchasing power is going up. It takes 4 minutes. It makes the stretched ruler visible. Intervention 3. Automate a monthly transfer from your savings account to a low-cost index fund account for any amount above your designated emergency fund threshold. Choose a specific dollar floor, for example, 3 months of expenses, and automate everything above that floor into a Vanguard, Fidelity, or Schwab index account on the same day every month. The 7% average annual return used in this video's math reflects the S&P 500's historical inflation-adjusted return from 1950-2023, per data compiled by NYU Stern. The automation removes the decision, and money illusion cannot activate on money that isn't sitting in a nominal display account. If Brendan had moved his savings into a high yield account in 2020 and automated $107 a month into an index fund, he wouldn't have lost $3,569 in purchasing power. He would have gained ground quietly, automatically, without checking an app every Sunday morning to feel okay about it. The most expensive financial habit isn't overspending. It's watching a number go up and calling that progress. Hit like if this changed how you see savings accounts. Subscribe if you want to do the math on the next one. The next video answers the question this one raises. If parking money in savings feels safe but isn't, what does actual financial safety look like, and why does the brain resist it? This video explains a psychological pattern. It is not financial advice. It does not account for your specific income, debt, or risk tolerance.